It's the Mustang Insider Show presented by Cal Portland, the largest building materials company of cement and construction material products on the West Coast. Now, here's Chris Sylvester, the voice of the Mustangs.
Welcome to another edition of the Mustang Insider presented by Cal Portland. We're here in April now and spring sports are rolling. The Cal Poly baseball Mustangs, after taking 2 of 3 from San Jose State at Baggett Stadium, will resume Big West play, head south to take on Long Beach State for 4 this weekend. We're joined now by 19th year head baseball coach of the Mustangs, Larry Lee. Coach, taking 2 out of 3 from San Jose State at home last weekend, but I think the bigger storyline potentially was having some fans back at the ballpark. What was that like for some of your guys and for yourself? It had been a really long time since you were able to play in front of Cal Poly fans at Baggett.
Yeah, I think it was great for a number of different people. You know, our community, parents, players, just being able to, put on a good show for them and get more in a game-like atmosphere. We had done a good job without fans, but there was nothing like having fans in the stands. And it was odd the first so many weeks of the season where you play the national anthem, and at the end of the national anthem there's not a clap, there's silence, and now you just get on to the game. So there's a little bit more normalcy. We're glad we're at this stage in our season, and hopefully we can open it up a little bit more if our county can get to a different tier.
Certainly nice to hear the roars from the crowd when you guys score and when you guys win. Took 2 of 3 from a Mountain West team, San Jose State, as we mentioned this past weekend. Your ball club sits at 14-10 overall. You're 4-4 in Big West Conference play. You're going to resume that funky conference schedule. There are no more non-conference games on your schedule the rest of the year, which is odd to say early in the month of April, but that's just the format this year in the Big West. It's a 4-game series in 3 days with a doubleheader on the middle day of the series. Through 2 Big West series, now that you've played a couple of them with the doubleheaders on the middle day, what are your thoughts? And have you kind of mastered it a little bit more as you've played a couple of those 4-game, 3-day series?
Well, I think a lot of your success on a weekend depends on your starting pitching. If they can give you some length to their start, and that hasn't always been the case. So it puts a lot of pressure in your bullpen. You're pitching a number of different guys. It's probably the most important thing when you're trying to win a game and win a series is how you manipulate the bullpen. It's tough to where you might use a guy first game on a Saturday doubleheader and not have him available. And, with just a 3-game series in 3 days, it's easier to manage your bullpen. So, we don't quite have enough pitching, but other teams are probably in the same boat. Long Beach they have a lot of pitching. It's probably the first team that we played this year that isn't old. All the teams that we've played, we're playing against a lot of teams that there's 5, 6, 7, 8 players that would have already extinguished their eligibility if it wasn't for the COVID. Long Beach State is fairly young, so it looks like they're going to be a force for the next few years.
Yeah, Long Beach State now under the direction of Eric Valenzuela, who of course had a nice run there at St. Mary's. Larry Lee joining us here on the Mustang Insider presented by Cal Portland. I mentioned Long Beach State. That's your next opponent at Blair Field. You swept them there a couple years ago. They had a real down year. Buckley was let go middle of the season and never really got right back in 2019. Have you noticed any advantage against teams that have played less games? 2 of your last 3 opponents, San Jose State, CSUN, didn't play too many non-conference games, didn't play too many games before they ran into you guys. Long Beach State, same deal. They elected not to play any non-conference games this year. They played 12 already in the Big West. They're sitting at 6-6. Is there any advantage for your team having played a bit more games and seen more pitches?
Yeah, you would think so. But it really wasn't the case, really. You would think that pitchers might be on maybe a little bit lesser of a pitch count, but they haven't been. For us, I just think, the more the more at bats that we can get. I mean, we're very limited anyway. We have 14 position players, so we only have 5 guys on the bench, and that's extremely low amount of position players. So our as long as we stay healthy, our position guys get a lot of at bats, and you would think that they would, uh, you know, kind of find their groove and get comfortable and seeing more pitches. See left-handed pitchers, right-handed pitchers. As for the teams that we play, the teams like Northridge and Long Beach, they played well. It's uh, if you have an older team, it's a little bit easier to come out and you know give it play your A game as much as possible. Long Beach, real good ball club, talented in a number of different areas. Team wise, probably be some of the best pitching that we've seen up to this day, kind of like a UCLA type of arms, and they run a lot of guys out there. So they have, it's kind of like last year's major league season where they're rolling out, reliever after reliever, but they're 4 starters. Their numbers are very, very good. So we'll have our hands full with them. Blair, where the field that we play at, it's usually a very pitching dominant place. But about 2 years ago, they moved 3 years ago, they moved the fences in only about 10 feet. They used to have a masonry brick wall. They still do behind, and that 10 feet's made a lot of difference. And I think it's something having to do with the wind dynamics, where balls are carrying a lot better to different parts of the ballpark. Usually wind blows in slightly from right field because that's where the ocean is. And so we'll see. I already looked at the wind direction about 3 days ago, and we'll see if it changes. And we just have to be on top of our game. And I think, we're at the point to where we should, be playing our best baseball from here on out. And like you said, everything's this conference. We have 8 4-game conference series. After this weekend, we'll be at the halfway point of a 56-game schedule. Cross our fingers. So far, we haven't had any cancellations with games like other teams across the country. So, right now we're fortunate, but we'll see what happens this weekend.
Yeah, 24 games under your belt. You're sitting at 14-10, and really, you could make an argument that you've really only had a couple of bad weekends. Unfortunately, those have both come in 4-game series against, with all due respect, maybe not talented as teams that you've beaten, like the USC's, the UCLA's. CSUN just split with UC Irvine this past weekend. But nonetheless, a lot of 4-game series, nothing but 4-game series the rest of the way. I want to talk more about Long Beach State, but I also want to ask you about some of your guys that you have on your roster this year. One man in particular, he's 28th in the country in batting average, hitting .427 in the middle of your lineup. His name's Matt Lopez. He's got a bit of an interesting story. Played a couple of years at a junior college up north, and then went to the Pac-12. Didn't play much last year before the shutdown at Washington State. He was kind of in and out of your starting lineup the first few games of this season, and then you just couldn't take him out of the starting lineup because he kept hitting the ball, and he's continued to do that, hitting well over 400 here, 24 games into the season. Has it surprised you how well he's hit the ball since you guys have started this 21 campaign? And how did you find him? Did you recruit him out of high school or junior college, or did you just see him there in the transfer portal and he fit one of your needs?
Well, Coach Silverman had recruited him out of Sierra Junior College up in Northern California. He put back-to-back seasons of very like power numbers offensively. Went up to Washington State. They had a young kind of a preseason All-American type of first baseman, left-handed hitter that he just wasn't going to get in the lineup up there. So went on the transfer portal. Coach Silverman saw that, we communicated, and now he's here. Did I know that he would be as hot and as good of a hitter as he was? No. You never get a true sense when you're playing inter squads in the fall, and then you come back after the winter break and pick it up in January, and all the way up until the season starts. And and I don't think he started the first couple of games. So in my mind, he didn't show me what he was capable of. But as soon as he was inserted in the starting lineup, he's been our hottest hitter. We've had, you know, throughout the early portion of the season, Emerson, Lee, and Lopez, they were the hot bats, and then Miles and Brooks, they kind of cooled down last couple weekends. But Matt's continued to swing the bat extremely well, and it's, you just put him in the 5 hole, and he kind of connects the front part of the lineup with the back half of the lineup, and he's a tough out. He stays inside the ball really well. He touches the ball. A very good 2-strike hitter, and he's a clutch hitter. So, we're lucky to have him, and we're going to need he and some of our other guys to turn that light switch back on from here on out.
Well, he seemingly swung the bat well all year. Guys like Tyson Corio, Nick DiCarlo have been swinging the bat well of late, and hopefully you guys can continue that in a pitcher-friendly ballpark this weekend. Your thoughts on your rotation? I know you said that you've had some outings there with these 4-game series that have been a little bit tough for you to try and maneuver around, but last weekend, taking 2 of 3 from San Jose State, you get a good effort from Thorpe on Friday night, 6 innings, 1 run for him. And then Travis Weston, I think we've seen it a couple of times this year. When he's able to get into a groove, he can get you a lot of quick outs and make things really easy for everybody else on your team. 8 scoreless innings, carried a perfect game into the 6th inning this past weekend against San Jose State. Where is this rotation right now, and where would you like it to be come the end of the season in regards to how successful you guys are and how many innings they're eating up?
Well, it's still a work in progress. We're still kind of tinkering with some things, and Coach Silverman really worked with Alvarez to throw a 2-seamer, and then we've done the same thing with Thorpe, and just started using that the last couple of weeks. And then there's a couple other pitchers out of the bullpen, to where we just think that it's just more difficult to elevate the ball when you throw a 2-seamer that has a little bit of heaviness when it gets close to the plate. And so that means we have to play solid defense, which for the most part we have in the infield. But when you're playing at Baggett Stadium or some of the other offensive ballparks, you want to keep the ball out of the air as much as possible. We don't have the arm strength to pitch up in the zone very much. If we do try to pitch up in the zone, which we do on occasions, it's got to be letter high or above. But if we miss, below the letters, at the belt or belly button, it gets hit pretty hard. So where would I like to be? I think, I pulled our 4 starters aside after our Sunday game against San Jose State. And I just said, listen, the season hinges on how successful you guys are. I go, we have the capability of putting a good defensive group behind you. To get another bat in the lineup, we might hide somebody, at a position, and you just, you hope that they can just be adequate at where they are. But if you don't have quality starting pitching where they can give you 6 or 7 innings, then you're just asking for trouble with your bullpen. If we're in a situation where I think that the game is kind of out of hand, in with us being on the deficit end, then we start going with guys at the latter end of the bullpen and just try to save our guys. Your basic goal is to, one, to win each and every game, but to try to win that series. And the difference this year is, like, if you go 2-2, you don't make up any ground. All right, you're still at 500. You're either going 3-1, which you're picking up 2 games, or you're going for 4-game sweep, but picks up 4 games. Very difficult to sweep a 4-game series. It's just too much that has to happen. But the teams we played, I mean, San Jose State, San Diego, Northridge, UCLA, SC, they're all really good hitting teams. And like I said, they're older. And so there's a big difference between a 20-year-old and a 23-year-old at the college level. So, um, you know, I think our better days are ahead of us. So we just have to continue to get innings, get appearances, get touches as a pitcher, get plate appearances as a hitter. And I've seen just within our hitters, we've made some adjustments over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and there's been a big difference in a batting practice setting. You see signs of it in a game setting, but the more guys we get on track offensively, the better off we're going to be. And if you can win a game, or if you can get ahead by enough runs and feel comfortable, then you got a chance to save your bullpen. And if you can do that earlier in the week, then it really helps. We had uh, against San Diego, the Sunday game that we won. Um, we were fully loaded with a couple of guys in the bullpen, so we felt pretty comfortable. And then Walker gave us, a good outing, and then we were able to bring in a couple guys that were better than our starter, and that's always the key. You want to be able to use at the right time your Kyle Smiths and Dylan Villalobos and those type of pitchers. So I think we're probably three strong of the 4 games in a starting role. We probably have 3 real quality relievers, and now we got to push that. We got to get 4 and 5. You have to get a 4th quality starter. So hopefully Bryce Walker can continue on the path that he's going, and then you really have to add some quality arms in the bullpen, so you don't abuse your main guys over and over again.
Hey, you mentioned that bullpen, Kyle Scott, a redshirt freshman that showed some flashes last year before the shutdown. He picked up the save in the series finale over San Jose State. He's got a couple of saves for you, and he's been a guy that you've been able to use in some high leverage late inning situations this year. Dylan Villalobos, another name that you mentioned, he's been used in some of those same situations. Brian Wu, I've talked to a number of scouts that have gone out to specifically see him. Some have told me that they think he's the best pitcher in the Big West, certainly has the best fastball, maybe some of the best stuff. How can you find a spot for him to succeed in? Because he started the season as a starting pitcher, struggled in his first 2 outings there, but we've seen him come out of the bullpen. He's had some dominant efforts. He's had some not so dominant efforts. Where is he most comfortable? And ideally, in what role would you like to use him?
Well, Brian's more comfortable out of the bullpen, and he's been really good out of the bullpen. On occasion, he might give up a home run, but that's fine. With him, we flipped the script on how we went about pitching hitters, and so we tried to make it a little bit more uncomfortable for hitters when they faced him. So, he pitches primarily off of his fastball. He still has to locate. If the ball's down, he's tough to hit. We throw in a lot with him, and he's been good. With Scott, Villalobos, those are our 3 main guys out of the bullpen. So again, but then when you have to play 4 games, you have 36 innings. That's where the starters are very valuable. If they can give you 7 innings, then it's kind of unrealistic in most series, but in theory, if all 4 guys gave you 7 innings, which is not going to happen, then you're only dealing with 8 innings of relief. But there have been series to where on a Friday, we have to go to the bullpen somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd inning, and it's like a domino effect for the rest of the series. So what you do on the front end of a series really helps dictate on how you approach the following games. But for us, I learned a long time ago. You just worry about the game at hand, and if you have to use everybody to get a win, then that's what you do, even if it's the first game of a series, because you don't know if your offense is going to, come back the next day and score 12 runs. So just worry about the game at hand, and uh, I've never thought about games 2, 3, or 4. Just you know focus on the game at hand. If you can get the win at all costs, and that's what you do.
Long Beach State last year, they were 10-5 before the shutdown. They had picked up series wins over a ranked Mississippi State team, a ranked Wake Forest team. They were ranked 12th in the country last year before the shutdown. It was Eric Valenzuela's first year. He had been the head coach for a while at St. Mary's. He's had some success up there. And they're 6-6 to start this season. We mentioned they didn't play any non-conference games. They lost 3 of 4 at Hawaii to open the season, then split at home with CSUN. They just won their first weekend series going to UC San Diego, taking 3 out of 4 this past week. And I know you mentioned how good that pitching staff is and how they're actually one of the younger teams that you will have faced this season. But what could you tell me about Eric Valenzuela coached teams? He was a pitcher, finished up at your alma mater, Pepperdine, after a stint at Arizona State. He's worked with a lot of guys that have gone on to have success in the major leagues. What does it take to beat teams that he coaches, and how is his style maybe different than the Troy Buckley Long Beach State teams that we've been so accustomed to seeing the last decade?
Well, I mean, this will be the first time playing Coach Valenzuela in a conference series, so things are always different. Things are always more tightly contested. A lot of times you're playing. He was at San Diego State and University of San Diego and St. Mary's. I think we only played him once when he was at St. Mary's, but probably played him a number of times when he was down in the San Diego area on those 2 programs. He's just tough. He has a boxing mentality, and he tries to create toughness with his players, both position and pitchers. His arms. He has live arms. So I'll learn more about him over the next year or two of really how he approaches the series. There's a lot of video available. That's how we do our scouting now. Used to be you would make calls and you get a scouting report from other colleges on series that they played that year, but now it's all on video to where we sit down. It takes about 3 days to formulate how you're going to pitch against their hitters and how you're going to hit against their pitchers, and it's more defined. There's without giving you too much information, it looks like there's a certain way that he likes to pitch and certain tendencies, and certain pitchers have tendencies of what they do, whether they're fastball dominant or whether they're off speed dominant. So how they pitch against right-handed hitters, left-handed hitters. So you have all these percentages, and our hitters, we have a pitcher meeting where we go over all the hitters, watch video, and tell them how we were going to attack them. But we also have usually the morning of, or unless the game's an early start, it's the night before, where all of our hitters will see their starting pitching, and then they'll see their key guys, and we'll have key phrases, whatever it might be, where it's sit on slider or see the ball up or sit out or 2/3. So there's something for each pitcher that we think will give our hitters a better approach up there, and hopefully that will lead to a chance of being more successful.
That's Larry Lee. He's the head coach of the Cal Poly Mustangs, who will resume conference play this weekend with 4 games on the road at Long Beach State. Coach, thanks so much for your time, and congratulations on reaching the 1,000-plus game plateau as head coach at Cal Poly. Not everybody gets to coach 1,000 games, yet alone at the same place.
Yeah, a lot of losses out of those 1,000. So,
but more wins than losses, more wins.
Yeah. So, but we're on to Cincinnati. So now we're on to this next game, and yeah, it just means that you've been doing it a long time, and you tack on the junior college games. It adds up. it seems like it adds up in a hurry, but it's over the course of many years.
Coach, best of luck this weekend at Long Beach, and looking forward to having you guys back at home for a couple of weekends.
Real good. Thanks, Chris.
This has been the Mustang Insider Show presented by Cal Portland, with a commitment to environmental leadership that has made the organization stronger and is the primary choice of contractors. The Mustang Insider Show. The preceding has been a Learfield IMG College presentation of the Cal Poly Sports Network.